art world doesn't like to talk about this next story. It's about an unseemly little secret kept under wraps by museums and art dealers. But now, a new exhibit at the Springfield Museums is lifting the veil. WGBH News arts editor Jared Bowen joins me to talk about this deceptive display. All right, so what did you find out there? What did you see?
Well, this is fascinating. I mean, as you mentioned, this is something that museums in the art world do not want to talk about because it really exists. There's an extensive amount of forgery out there, just as there always has been in the art market, and it exists today. Now, Emily, I know that you pride yourself on your art knowledge, and since you're all rested and back from vacation, I'm going to put you to the test, because when you first go to the exhibit, you can take a test for yourself and see if you can differentiate between two fakes. So the first we have to show you here is Toulouse-Lautrec. So is this the Toulouse-Lautrec piece that we're looking at, or is this Toulouse-Lautrec?
I'd say the first one.
And you would be wrong, so you failed the first test. It's the second piece there that's really Toulouse-Lautrec. I have one more for you. Modigliani, of course, the Italian troubled Italian artist. So we have two pieces by him. They're also drawings. Is this Modigliani, or is the second one Modigliani?
Let me see the first one again.
Come on, I know you can do it.
I know. I mean, one.
No, you're wrong again. You're 0 for 2, so the second one. And this, quite frankly, is something that the museum world has to contend with all the time. In fact, I was talking to one of the curators out there, and she said, because what they've done here is they've pulled out 5 artists, 5 prominent forgers from the 20th century that they pulled out, and they said one of whom did a Modigliani, they pulled it out and for a moment had to think whether this was the real one or not. So even now, in today's times, they're trying to figure out, what a forgery is. But one of the most astonishing things to me was the museum director out there at the Springfield Museums told me that about at least 30% of the art market out there right now is made up of forgeries. And I asked her, what's the forgery count in museums? She didn't have an answer for that. But she said, and I subsequently talked to some other museum officials just on background, and all of them tell me that when you go to a museum, you're probably looking at a forgery at some point during your visit there.
Because, I mean, they've got all this sophisticated technology now to, carbon
technology.
dating.
That's the problem, because you have these artists or these museum officials who have certainly want to try to check provenance, but it's so costly, and you have to have the right technology to be able to do this testing. But I talked to Heather Haskell, who's the museum director there, about why they are doing the show in that vein.
This idea of fakes and forgeries in the art world has always been sort of murmured about, and this is really bringing it out into the open, explaining to people how it's done, why it's done, and just making people aware of it so that they don't take things quite at face value, that they look a little deeper.
So are these all artists that we would recognize? Who do they profile on the show?
Well, one of them is actually an artist who's turned legitimate. So he went to jail, he cooperated with authorities, and now he's a well-known forger. One of the other great stories that they tell is Han van Meegeren, who was working in the 30s and 40s, and he later went on trial. By the way, the audacity of this man is incredible, because he not only recreated Vermeers, but he invented this whole time period for Vermeer that never actually existed. That was his way to get this whole religious time of Vermeer out onto the art market. And again, this is back in the 30s and 40s. You couldn't necessarily do the quick internet check or call to corroborate that. But he actually was later put on trial for distributing art to the Nazis, and his defense was, no, I didn't take official art from museums and sell it to the Nazis because I made it myself. And during his trial, he actually painted before a rapt audience in the courtroom one of his paintings. So that's how he proved his innocence. But these are people who have made a life of doing this, mainly for money, also because they were antagonized by the art market and wanted to get back at them. And I talked to Julia Courtney. She's the curator out there for this show. And I asked her basically what these artists do to be able to recreate these artists.
Most of them say that they actually sort of try to climb into the skin of the original creator rather than copy it line by line. And that is helpful to them. They sort of get into that mindset of painting as if they really were Vermeer. So that's fun to think about.
It's interesting. These people can really paint because a lot of this forgery is done by computer.
Right, and what's so fascinating about these 20th century artists is that they all were incredibly skilled. They were all incredibly talented, but they were only talented as classical artists and in painting Renaissance type of paintings instead of moving art forward. So that's where they got mired, and that's where a lot of their antagonism came from.
All right, now you have something else up for tomorrow.
Well,
dancing?
Recently I saw Heartbeat native home, which is really a fantastic show. It's playing at the Wang Theater right now, and it's done by the same creative team as Riverdance, but 20 years later. So this is a piece. It is so phenomenal, Emily. The dancing is absolutely stunning. It overflows with spirit and humanity and passion, and it's a show that basically takes you around the world through Irish step dancing, African dancing, Latin, flamenco, tango. It's a really, really fun show.
You know, I understand they roped you into a little bit of on-stage performance.
Yeah, see, this is what happens when you go away. They had me go and do a little Irish step dancing.
How'd you do?
As somebody who never dances and cringes at seeing himself in wedding videos, this was me doing my Irish step dancing.
Should've had
Joyce
Edgar.
Gilhaywick was there with me. This is so cringe-inducing, isn't it?
It is. You're terrible. We needed Edgar. He would have been great.
Awful. Oh, sure, you throw me under the bus. But I've seen you we've danced together at a wedding. You're not much better than me.
That's not true. I can dance.
That is totally true. But my dancing aside, and actually Blaine Donovan was one of my dancers, they're all so just fantastic in the skill that they have. And
Joyce is doing all right.
Joyce was good, and that's actually Fast Freddy. He's a radio personality. He was next to me, and he was very good. This is the only thing I did well because you had to walk forward.
That's good. All right.
It was fun. But I implore people, this is a special that's been on PBS as well. If you have the time this week, it's only through this weekend, absolutely go see it.
Okay. Jared, thank you.